us.
You're interested in kangaroos, right?
Okay.
We just could not believe it. We said, it's Christmas Eve. Surely there will be some festivities. He said, what we are separated and divided one more time. That was it, and that was it. So we stayed there. We stayed there, but the food was horrible. The people coming in through there was all the poor people from Brazil, from the north, and were arriving. So it wasn't very pleasant. So we rang up Hias one more time. The Hias says, where are you? We told them. He says, oh my God, how did you end up there? We said, well, we didn't know. Straight away. They came, picked us up. They took us to Higienópolis.
Come on.
Higienópolis.
Fantastic.
They took us, there was a Pensione Roma, there in Rua Maranhão, esquina com a Avenida Angélica.
Fantástico. E é interessante que agora a gente está falando um pouquinho de português para os nossos amigos e honra a Paris,
posso
mas...
falar?
Claro que pode falar, mas aqui nós depois vou editar e vamos fazer a montagem que a gente bem entende.
Sim,
Mas é muito interessante a sua memória, né, sobre isso.
A memória é muito boa, por isso que eu quis falar com você, contar a minha história, porque é uma linda história, é triste, é como um romance.
Sim.
Mas deve ser dita, porque o que passamos foi muito difícil. Não foi uma vida fácil, não foi uma experiência fácil. Custou a vida dos meus pais.
Sim, o sofrimento do teu pai, eu acho que foi uma coisa extremamente
Meu
marcante.
pai e a minha mãe também.
Allah yarhamhum, sim.
Allah yarhamhum eletnei, my mother too. Enfim, chegamos na pensão Roma, fomos muito bem tratados, não podíamos crer. E graças a Rias, de novo, não nos deixaram mais.
Continuamos em inglês. Continuamos em inglês agora.
Okay. They never left us. They gave us their address no Bom Retiro, and they told us to go to the Bom Retiro's office often. And meanwhile, they were going to help with whatever needs we had. Meanwhile, they were paying for Pensione Roma in Higienópolis. Em Higienópolis, eles iam pagar todos os gastos de todas as despesas, até que nós outros íamos nos sistemar a vida no Brasil. Enfim. Foi assim, meu pai não encontrava trabalho. Meu pai encontrava dificuldade, pois ele não falava português também. A idade, ele tinha 50 e poucos anos, 56, 50 e uma coisa assim. Não encontrava trabalho. Minha mãe tinha a sorte que ela, that she could read cards. البخت.
Ler as mãos em português. Fantástico.
Não, ela não lia as mãos. Ela lia xícara de café.
Masbut, xícara de café, masbut.
E as cartas.
Okay.
And as you know, in Brazil, they believe in things like that.
Absolutely.
So, and she was very good. She was very accurate. And through that, she started a good clientele. Now, through that clientele, I was 12 years old still. They told my mother that a lady could get me a job. If my mother was interested, she could get me a job as an office boy, and I could do my studies at night. But my mother said he's too young. And she said, but they said, look, don't worry, it's not a bad job. Office boy, he just do messages, he goes to the bank, he delivers letters, that's all he does. So my mother approached me in tears, crying on her knees. I could not understand what was going on. I said, Mom, why are you crying? Why are you on your knees? She said, because what I have to ask you, I never thought I would do. But the situation we are in, your dad and I, we need your assistance, your help. And this is the situation, a job. And I said, Mom, don't even worry about it. I'm quite happy to do it. So she said, she cried, she said, I will always be eternally grateful for you. I will never forget. And I got tears in my eyes now.
Yeah, Allah yarhamha. So how old you was, my
12, Sami. I was 12 years old in 1958. I was 12 years old. I started to work. And I started to work with Resco, companhia de colas e resinas, era na rua São Bento. Eu trabalhava das 8 da manhã até as 6 da tarde. E das 7h30 até às 11 fazia os meus estudos à noite. Meu pai conseguiu trabalho, trâmite, essas pessoas que minha mãe fazia a sorte, e encontraram trabalho no Banco Sul-Americano do Brasil para o meu pai, na agência do Belenzinho. E assim começamos a ir. Fomos ver a Rias e dizemos para eles, olha, agora nós outros estamos trabalhando e somos gratos por toda a ajuda que vocês nos deram com a pensão Roma. Agora vamos procurar nos estabelecer nos outros mesmos. Foi aí que na Rias, eles nos passavam queijo, dinheiro, farinha, açúcar, café, essas coisas que ajudavam muito, muito. E prometeram de pagar os meus estudos até eu acabar os meus estudos. Agora, Sami, se eu não devo ser reconhecido a Rias por essa ajuda, eu seria um ingrato. I can never forget.
Bonitas palavras, and we will try to do our best to make some kind of declaration.
I want them to know.
We got to find out. Yeah, I want them to know, exactly.
I want Rias to know that I am grateful, and not only me. A lot of people are grateful for all their assistance they gave to the Jews suffering dispersed throughout the world once they became immigrants.
And actually, they are doing for a lot of other people also that are suffering, Jews or not, you know? I know.
Anyway, that was the story. I started working with Resco, and then from then I went to Sambra. You know Sambra?
No, I don't.
Oleo fish.
Sambra. Yeah. Now I'm remembering. Okay.
Now I remember that. There was a general manager. He was a Jewish from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And when he found out our story from Egypt, he said, straight away, I'll take the boy and I'll fit him in with our organization. And that's where I went with Sambra. I worked with Sambra, and I was working, we lived in Campos Elíseos, na Barão da Limeira.
I see.
E eu fazia os meus estudos no ginásio Riachuelo, that I believe it doesn't exist anymore now. So, anyway, that's to give you a background where I was, where I stayed, and what I did. Now, in order to save money, I was walking in the morning to work from home, and at night time back, so that I didn't have money to spend on the buses. So I was coming home at 7 o'clock, 7:30 I was at school, 11:30 I was in bed, and started again, tran. Now, what happened was in 1964, 63, situation in Brazil started getting worse and worse and worse. The military government came in with Rio Branco, and we felt uneasy and unsafe. One more time, we didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, in these 8 years that we were in Brazil, my relatives here continued with the efforts to bring us to Australia.
So you had already relatives in Australia at
Sorry?
that time. So you had relatives in Australia at that time. Yeah, okay.
Yes. From my father's side, they started living in 1956, and they all came to Australia. I had a big family in Australia, yes.
I see, okay.
And they continued. We never found out the reason why we were refused in 1958. We never found out. Now, what happened is my uncle was successful to get us a visa to come to Australia. Now, he wrote to us, he said, look, I've lodged the paperwork and you have been approved, and it's just a matter of going to Rio to do the interview and do the medical and whatever. Now, I did not want to come to Australia. I was already a Brazilian. Brazilian at heart, Brazilian in life, Brazilian in everything, you see. By that time, I was 19 years old, Sami. 19, you've already gone from 12 to 19. You already spent a good life in a country, and you feel part of it. You know what I mean? Of
course, absolutely.
Especially because, if you remember those days, we were always estrangeiros. We were not very well accepted, and I had to fight my way not to be estrangeiro, to be brasileiro.
I see.
Entende? Então,
did you recognize you because of our accent, your way of thinking? What was the idea? Because this is something very important in this interview. Because
it was something
many people say that it was always beauty, but maybe we had also some tough times. I don't want to talk about this because it's not the purpose.
I'm quite open with this. We were not accepted. I felt that I wasn't accepted because, first of all, I didn't speak their language, first of all. Secondly, it was just something estrangeiro. Desculpa se eu vou falar a palavra. Você pode editar depois. Estrangeiro, filho da puta.
I see.
Era sempre na boca das pessoas. Estrangeiro, filho da puta. E eu não queria ser chamado filho da puta. Eu queria ser brasileiro. E consegui ser brasileiro. Tive o meu cartão de trabalho, tive a minha carteira de trabalho, a minha carteira de imigrante, estava tudo em regra. Estava tudo em regra. Então, quando chegou a hora de sair do Brasil, eu não queria sair, Sami. Minha mãe também não queria sair também, tinha feito as amizades, tinha feito aquela clientela de gente que vinha para ver a sorte, e não queríamos vir para a Austrália. Então, infelizmente, meu pai sofreu um derrame de meio corpo e sofreu um infarto muito grave. E ele não estava muito bem de saúde. Eu tive que trabalhar muito sozinho para tirar em frente a família, pois meu pai não trabalhou por muito tempo por causa da saúde e vivíamos com o meu salário. Agora, meu pai sentia falta dos irmãos e da família, pois não tínhamos muita família no Brasil, e ele queria vir. Então, falamos para ele, olha, pai, você quer ir para a Austrália? Vai. Toma o bilhete, vai ver a família, vai ver seus irmãos, fica com eles o tempo necessário que você precisa. E quando vê a situação como é, se nós outros podemos nos ambientar na vida australiana, você com a sua idade, com a sua situação de saúde, trabalho e tudo isso. Se vê que tem possibilidades, você fica. Eu e a mamãe vendemos tudo e seguimos para frente. Ele não quis. Disse não, ele tinha medo de morrer longe de nós outros. Então disse... Então ele disse, não, ou vamos juntos ou não vamos. Mas se eu morrer, fica na vossa consciência. Ou não. Quando ele falou assim, eu falei, mãe, isso eu não vou levar na minha consciência, que eu não fiz meu pai feliz. Não. Ela falou também, não, Guido, não podemos fazer isso. E foi essa a razão que nós outros dimos para a Austrália. E foi em junho de 1965. A situação no Brasil estava indo de mal a pior. A situação no Brasil naquela época não era muito fácil, não era muito flórida. Então, tomamos a decisão. Quando chegamos aqui, Sami, I'll switch to English now, might be easy to explain. The situation wasn't easy. Language, we did not master. We had a bit of knowledge. We thought that we could speak English. We did not speak English. So we were separated once again after so many years. I went to live with one uncle. My mother went to live with another uncle. So we were separated. We were not living together. That wasn't very... For me, they found me a job. Mind you, when I left Brazil, my last job was with Bendix.
I see, the washing machine.
Washing machine, fridges, and things like that.
Yeah.
And the office was na Rua Paulista, no edifício do Fazano.
Aham, Conjunto Nacional, chamado atualmente.
Agora, Conjunto, naquela época era o Fazano. Enfim.
Yeah, I remember Fazano, yeah.
Lembra Fazano?
Okay. Yeah.
Eu, naquela época, I had achieved the position of assistant managers of personnel departments for Bendix. So I had a good opportunity for a future with Bendix. That when they found out, they approached me and said, Guido, we've got big plans for you, but we don't want to put them in place if you are going to Australia. So just tell us what you want. And I explained the situation, and they said, it's not by my choice, it's by, I've got to make my father happy. And that's how it was. So came here, I was hoping to get a clerical job. It was not possible. It was not possible. I started to work in a factory, in a yarn factory, and I was a storeman, loading trucks, unloading trucks, and putting boxes here and putting boxes there, and that was my job. My father could not get a job because of his age, because of the language, and because of his health. So to come to Australia, we had debts to pay because we had to get the fares, which were financed here by the Catholic Union, and those fares had to be paid. We had to establish ourselves. We have to get a house. We had to get furniture. And the only one working was me. So as you see, it was very hard. I was working 6 and 7 days a week, with as much as overtime as I could take in order to support the family. And we did it. We did it eventually. My father took him about 8 months before he found a job. And the only job the poor man took was out of desperation and out of pride. He was a cleaner in a factory. He had to sweep a factory all day long. He was disappointed from where I was to end up in a factory. He was broken-hearted. He regretted the day we left Brazil. He regretted the life he had in Brazil that he could not have here. Life was very hard in Australia because we were not recognized for our qualities. We were recognized as meat fodder, if you understand what I'm saying. Jobs to be filled. That's all. But nevertheless, as I've explained to you, for my father, life was very difficult. He became very ill. He suffered many strokes. He suffered heart attacks. He was more off work than with work. My mother had to find a job. She never worked, but she had to find a job. And she was washing dishes in a hospital and cleaning the wards and attending to the, as a maid, to the sick people. And I was working 6-7 days a week, as much as overtime as we could. My father didn't last long. We arrived in 65. He died in 72. But he died a very sick man. But it was by his choice. Australia was not for my father. And Australia was not for my mother. Because my mother had a great social life in Brazil. You know what the life was like. I don't know what it is now. But you know what it was. Madame Rula venait prendre un café. Madame Rula venait faire une partie de cartes. Madame Rula venait faire ça. Qu'est-ce que vous avez cuisiné aujourd'hui? Ah, moi j'ai cuisiné ça. Je vous envoie un plat. C'était différent. C'était comme la vie en Égypte.
Voilà, c'est clair. Je te comprends tout à fait. C'est un pays d'émigrants, mais c'est différent, les émigrants en Australie. Les émigrants en Australie, I don't want to say it was some kind of second class or something like that, because
No,
it has
but
a completely different culture. You don't have that mixed up, you know.
very
I can't
different.
understand. Yeah.
Very different, Sami. We had to adapt and that's what when I was talking to you before, I explained. We young ones adapted. We adapted. Our parents did not adapt. Our parents, I can assure you, died of broken hearts.